The days are longer, the calendar is filling up, and I want to feel as good as this beautiful summer weather. That's why I've been loving Groons. It's one daily pack of gummies that covers my greens, vitamins, and minerals, and even has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber. So I don't need to juggle a complicated wellness routine on top of everything else. They taste amazing. They're easy to toss in my bag on the go. Plus, they're vegan, gluten free, and HSA, FSA eligible for reimbursement. Save up to 52% off with promo code podcast at gruns.co. That's code podcast at gruns.co.
Welcome back to talknorth.com. Thank you for listening. If you can, please download before you listen. It helps our business. I'd also like to thank our producer, Brandon Morton, and let you know if you'd like to sponsor this program or any of the programs on the network. You can reach me at jsouhan47@gmail.com. Welcome to Tin Shed in Savage. I'm Jim Souhan here with Michael Russo. This is the Russo Hockey Show. Over to my far left is Brandon Morton, our longtime producer. Thank you to everybody who came out once again. We do appreciate it. I know, but everybody was inspired by the overtime win on Tuesday night. Michael, this is such a Wild market to work in. I go to the Wild game on Tuesday night thinking I'm going to write about the Wild and approaching trading deadline, what they might or might not do, what they should or shouldn't do. And I'm sitting there, and the Timberwolves trade half their team, and then the Twins make a blockbuster deal, and I end up like writing 2 hockey columns, not having either of them run in the paper, then writing 2 versions of a baseball column. And I got to say, the piece I wrote today on the Twins, it is the best hockey column I've ever written.
Yeah, I bet. It is funny how often that happens for columnists, where you're sitting in a press box for one sport, then all of a sudden you got to change gears. I'm amazed at both those trades. I was listening to Ken Rosenthal from The Athletic on my drive home and listening to the whole thing between the Twins and the Red Sox and the Dodgers. And then you read today about the 4-team trade in the NBA. And I just can't imagine how confusing, complicated, and how long it must take to consummate a 4-team trade with all the different rules and intricacies in especially both those sports where, again, it just makes you appreciate covering hockey where every trade is essentially cut and dry, other than maybe retaining a little salary every now and then. But it's stuff like that we just don't have to deal with. Like I was reading some of John Krasinski's stuff today, and it just was like foreign to me. And same thing, the whole thing with the Red Sox getting under the luxury tax threshold and all that stuff. And to do so, you have to give up Mookie Betts, who's about to be a $30 or $40 million baseball player. It's nuts.
You see, Paul Fenton had it right. Just make hockey trades.
Yeah,
one player for one player.
Exactly.
Keep it simple.
Yep, keep it simple.
Thanks again to Tin Shed for hosting us. TinShedMN.com is the website. Check them out. You'll see Michael's picture there, future dates. Next live show will be next Wednesday. That's February 12th at 7 p.m. And then we'll let you know what our plans are for March. We appreciate everybody who shows up and puts up with us at these live shows. It's a lot of fun, and it's great to see you all here. Again, my wife's even here for this show. It must be we must have a special guest or something coming if Stacy shows up.
Yes.
I gave you an opening. You could have ripped. You could have made me fun of me. Come on.
No, she's
Let's wake up here.
She doesn't spend enough time with you. She just wants to hang out.
Okay, never mind.
The miles on her car has got to be because she like you already live way north of here.
Yes.
But she works way north of where you live. And
yes.
It is. I mean, it's got to be an hour and a half drive for Stacy to get down here, probably, right? Yeah, dedicated wife.
But it's a very short flight.
Yeah.
It's really not bad. She gets.
Just take a helicopter down here.
Hey, thank you to our sponsors, Tin Shed, Grey Duck Vodka, Twill in the Edina Galleria, FixologyRepair.com, Tony Hoagland, your State Farm agent, Champlin, who had a chance to come here and meet a new client. So I'll tell you more about that later. We have a bunch of new shows coming out at TalkNorth.com. We have a new website, TalkNorth.com. We've spruced it up a little bit. We're going to be expanding the business, putting out a lot of new shows, so we had to get better organized with our website. Putting out a lot of outdoor shows right now, Minnesota Bound, Ron Scherer Productions, The Flush, etc. So we're going to have a lot more outdoor content. We're expanding to some other categories you'll see very soon here. Thank you to everybody who's listened so far and helped us get to that point. It's very gratifying to have the sport we have had and to see the business grow. And but tonight, let's talk some hockey. Parise's 1,000th game coming up. Is he the kind of guy who cares a lot about that?
Yeah, I think he's proud of it, especially for what he was dealing with from pretty much 2016 to 18, where he didn't even know if he was going to play again or just be adversely affected for the rest of his career with the pain that he was in and the lack of quality of life that he was dealing with. I think I mentioned on the day of the last podcast here, I was over his house preparing for a big story that I honestly was at my laptop today from probably about 9 a.m. to the minute I left for this show here. So pretty much 6-7 hours trying to craft a story that we're going to actually run tomorrow, even though his 1,000th game is Friday. Just because of the second of back-to-back, decided to run it on game 999. I asked him point blank, like, if you get hurt tomorrow, it's not my fault, right? And he's like, yeah, don't worry about it.
That sounds like the ultimate jinx.
I know.
I mean, not just writing it, but asking him.
Well, I wanted to make sure that he wasn't going to get tipped because players are superstitious.
What if he had said, don't run it?
Then I wouldn't have run it. I would have respected that. Guy had me in his house.
I didn't learn that in journalism school.
But that I'm telling you, the story, I'll actually, I'll be interested to see what people think of it because I don't know. Maybe it's just way too long, but I left and felt like I was under deadline as I left. I'm not sure exactly if I wrote it as well as I probably could have, but it's an interesting story because the way that I pitched it to Zach when I asked him permission if he'd be willing to do this, and I needed a couple other people's cooperation to do this, was JP Parise was always the person that was quoted whenever we talked to Zach, right? It was JP was always a text or call away. And he was always the one that, JP Parise's son, JP Parise's son, JP Parise's son. And nobody's ever really done anything through the eyes of his mom and his wife. And I mean, one of the best quotes in the story was that his mom's like, yeah, for a while, it was like, does he even have a mother? So that's what the story is. It's Alicia and Donna talking about him for the entire length of the story with Zach's interspersed in there. And it's just, there's some really touching, heartwarming parts of the story, very, very funny parts of the story. So I think he's proud of it. I think what he is disappointed is that it's in the second of a back-to-back in Dallas. I mean, what are the chances? The Wild are in this crazy amount of home games, both before this Dallas game and after the Dallas game, and the 1,000th game winds up on the road in Dallas. But, as I said to him, and I think he agreed after I said it to him, it's kind of fitting. Because I think when they have the ceremony there on the green carpet on, I think it's February 15th, the game against San Jose, I think they're doing it. There's going to be some prideful family members on that carpet, but one person is missing, and that's JP. And, there's a couple things, reason why it could be fitting to do it in Dallas. One, it's the Minnesota North Stars. I know people look at them as the Dallas Stars, but that's a team that JP Parise played on for 8 or 9 years, so it's kind of fitting that it's down there. And then the other thing that I kind of reminded Zach is when I had that really, gripping story a day before JP died for the Star Tribune, it was from Dallas. The Wild. I knew that JP that morning was put into hospice, and the whole day I just couldn't get out of my head that JP was put into hospice and poor Zach Parise was down in Dallas. And then they get their ass kicked that night, 6-1. And after the game, Zach just tore himself to shreds for the way he played, and nobody knew that JP was in hospice. And I just couldn't get it out of my head that he would fall on the knife like this, knowing what he was dealing with. So I sort of raced him down. I'll never forget this. Actually, Jamie Watson was down there, the old Minnesota United player and former Minnesota United broadcaster, and he was down there, and I got him downstairs after the game, and I kind of sprinted past Jamie because I was supposed to meet him down there after the game, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I got to catch up with Zach here, and I round up catching up to Zach in front of the team bus. And I basically said to him, look, I know what's going on here. I I feel horrible running these quotes of you basically calling yourself like the worst player ever, knowing that's going on. And he basically broke down by the bus and told me everything was going on, and he gave me permission to write the story. And the next day, the entire flight from Dallas to Minneapolis, I wrote this story basically with tears in my eyes because I knew that JP was like a day or two away from passing away. And so just kind of there's sort of a fitting nature to the fact that he's going down there for his 1,000th game. And I kind of reminded Zach of that whole experience there. And so it's a pretty cool story. There's a lot of really neat stories, not unlike the Stalock story a couple days ago, him talking about his kids playing hockey, him talking about what he was dealing with the back injury, him talking a little more details from his wife's point of view of what it was like to be in Toronto when he was deciding where he was going to sign as a free agent in 2012. A lot of really cool stories in there about from Donna Parise on how she met JP. I don't think people really know this, but Donna Parise was the 2 millionth North Stars fan. And talk about fate. It was her first ever hockey game that she went to. And she goes through the Met Center, and she's the 2 millionth fan going through the turnstiles at the Met Center. And so her gift was that she got to go on a Boston-Montreal trip. And her I didn't know any of this stuff, but her dad died at 5 years old. She was raised by a single mother, her and her sister. So they had no money, very poor, from Albert Lea, Minnesota. And she basically said to her sister, you got to come with me on this trip. And they go on this trip. They go to Montreal. Then they fly down to Boston. They play an afternoon game against the Bruins and North Stars. And they're supposed to fly home with the media. And I'm giving away this whole story, so hopefully you still read this story because it's from Donna's point of view. But she decides, she and her sister are poor. They've never gotten this opportunity to be on the East Coast. They've never been to New York City. So they decide that the next day they wanted to, instead of flying back to Minnesota with the media on the commercial flight, they wanted to take a train down to New York City. So because of that, they stayed in Boston that night. Well, the North Stars were also staying in Boston that night. So they asked the concierge where they should go to eat, and he recommends Anthony's Pier 4, which is a famous Boston restaurant. So she goes there, and the first person that sees her is Charlie Burns, who just recognized her and Mona from the team hotel in Montreal. Charlie Burns invites Mona and Donna to sit and have dinner with her. And 20 minutes later, JP walks in with 6 of the guys because they were partying after the game against the Bruins. And JP decides to sit with Mona and Charlie Burns and Donna. And the next thing, 5 years later, they get married. So it's a crazy story. And the rest is history. 5 years after that, they have Jordan Parise. 2 years after that, Zach Parise. So there's a lot of stuff like that. As you could tell, this is probably. I average on my features 4,000-word stories, which in the Star Tribune, which would be, 120 inches. This one, I apologize to my editor for the length. I mean, now a lot of it's because I really didn't have time to cut it because of Jim's podcast network, but we'll see the way.
4,000 words?
Yeah, my Stalock story the other day was 4,000 words.
I mean...
No space constraints at the Athletic.
About 16 words, so that's a lot of repetition.
I know, it is. Well... I write in one giant quote. So
actually, JP, I had one real sit down with JP. It was right after
I read that story today,
and I remember JP telling me that story, and it was
really,
yeah. I don't think I used it because it was a more focused piece. But if I had 4,000 words to write, maybe I would have fit it in there someplace.
Well, it's funny because I wanted to hyperlink. It's not funny, but I wanted to hyperlink. And this is humbling because, Zach, and with all players, you have your ups and downs with players. And so, Zach, there was a point where, the story that I wrote this past summer on him when he sat down with me for that exclusive at a Starbucks and a Dinah, but he talked in that story about how after his dad died, he went through a real tough period in his life where he was angry with everybody. And there was a point after his dad died where he was not getting along with me and vice versa. And but one of the most humbling things that I'll never, for my history of covering Zach Parise, to me the most humbling thing is that he and his father, trusted me to be the one that first. In September of 2014, sort of sat down with me to allow me to be the person to kind of announce publicly that JP had lung cancer, and that was a real humbling experience. But then for him to do that thing in Dallas where he sat down and let me write the story to kind of almost prep the state of hockey that JP was about to pass. I mean, that's humbling as well. So what happened today is when I was trying to hyperlink those two stories, it's not easy to find Michael Russo anymore on the Star Tribune website in their search field. You have to do a lot of Google searching. And so when I did a lot of searching for Star
Just
Tribune
search
stories,
bleeping Michael Russo and it comes right up.
Yeah, pretty much. I think I was disbanded from. I was just removed
Disbarred.
from their website. But when I did that, I was Googling and I found your column that you wrote with JP a couple years before, and it was a really good column. So
Wow, compliment. I don't think it was sincere, but I'll take it.
Yeah,
I really will.
It was.
Hey, thank you to Grey Duck Vodka, one of our newest sponsors, one of our biggest sponsors, Grey Duck Vodka, Minnesota's vodka. That's Chad Greenway's company, and they're making it big right now.
When we asked you to get the duck out, wow, did you respond? Grey Duck Vodka is now in over 1,500 locations and expanding every day. This is Chad Greenway, and I just want to say thank you for making Grey Duck Minnesota's vodka. With the wonderful ingredients from Minnesota farmers, Grey Duck is gluten-free and has won 3 gold medals for taste. For all upcoming events and a list of locations carrying Grey Duck, head to greyduckspirits.com.
Please drink responsibly. Grey Duck Spirits, LLC, Lakeville, Minnesota.
Get the duck out.
If you'd like to ask a live question, please come up. Brandon has a microphone right there. We welcome live questions. We appreciate people who make the drive out here to talk to us. We'd love to answer your questions. We'll get to some Twitter questions later. Also, Brian from Tin Shed gives away tickets. He gave some away recently. Just come up and fill out the slip, put it in the fishbowl. You have to be here, obviously, to enter. You also have to be here during one of the live shows to win. And, of course, last time the first person he called out did win, so it was kind of
That was
cool.
crazy, yeah.
Yeah. So
Jason Malley.
Thank you to Brian. Thank you to Tin Shed for doing that. And, again...
And in that bowl, there had to be like 200 names.
Yeah, there were
It
a
was
lot.
crazy.
Yes. So get in early. And reminder, check out Tin Shed, tinshedmn.com for their coupons, their 2-for-1 deals, buy one, get one free, take and bake pizzas, their fundraising. And, if you're here, you already know it's a cool place to hang out with lots of video games, lots of TVs, hockey on almost all the TVs except for one Wolves game that I don't know anybody's going to watch anyway.
Boy, the Atlanta Hawks have ugly uniforms, huh?
I didn't look today.
Yeah.
I'll have to look when they come back on. All right. Dumba breaks an incredibly long scoreless streak with an overtime game-winning goal. Wasn't the prettiest goal in the world, but you could tell talking to him afterward that he was so relieved.
You're right. I mean, it's kind of the way you expect a goal drought to end. That was kind of my lead today. It really reminded me of Kevin Fiala's goal earlier this year, even though it was totally different goals. But if you remember, Fiala's first goal of the season after going 0 for October was the Teuvo Teravainen goal that beat Dubnyk in the playoffs. In that one playoff series in Chicago, that was one of the ugliest goals ever, and it turned that entire series around, frankly. That was the game that the Wild, I don't know if you remember, they were down 3-0, rallied back to make it 3-3, and then Teravainen scores from the bench, and they lost that game and wound up losing the series. I think got swept, if I remember, that was the series. But so Fiala scores an almost identical goal to start the year, and then all of a sudden he takes off. He scores 7 goals in his next 14 games, and he had something like 20 points in his next 25 or something crazy. And so Dumba now gets it, and now can he get on a roll because of it? I was happy for Dumba yesterday. You start to wonder sometimes if there's real, I know that jinxes aren't real, but karma should be, right? And he's done all this great stuff lately. He donates all that money to Australia. He winds up being a good Samaritan on the side of the road with a couple that's run out of gas and is in frigid weather. What was the thing he did the other day too? There was something else the other day too. There was a third thing too. It'll come to me. But you just start to wonder, come on, man, give the kid a break. And then he finally gets a break yesterday, and it's maybe now puck luck is on his side. I mean, that puck is stopped. It hops in the air, hits the crossbar. The way it's been going for him, you expect that thing to go to the side of the net and go the other way for a breakaway goal. But this time, finally, it goes in off Crawford's back and in. Good for him. And the other thing was just the Kobe stuff. I thought was pretty heartwarming as well. Him being alone on the ice with the kids, and so hopefully this gets him on a little bit of a roll here because man, the Wild need it. And I will say I agree with Boudreau that Boudreau said in the postgame yesterday. I thought Dumba was their best defenseman in that ugly loss against Boston. And I thought before the break he started to look much more like himself. And so now if you can get him playing well on a quality second pair with Brodin here, maybe they can get on a little bit of a run here because, man, they need it. I mean, you just look at what that happened last night. They wind up getting an overtime win, and it did nothing for them in the standings. And that's what the point that they're in right now is that you pretty much you can't just win one, lose one. I mean, you've got to win 8, 9, 10. You got to get on a long, long run here to get themselves back just to get into this thing. They've got to win. They got 54 points, so they've got to win 20 games to make the playoffs. There you go.
You running to Vegas to make that bet?
I'd bet the under.
Listen, goal scoring isn't everything, especially for a defenseman.
But that's his game.
Has his production been indicative of his overall game?
Well, I wrote a lot about this in the story. I mean, what was really ironic about it, and I give Sarah McClellan credit from the Star Tribune. She's the one that remembered this in the post-game with her questioning, and which made me throw it in there. But if you remember, that game in Chicago on December 15th-ish was his worst game of the season. I mean, he was so bad. He was demoted to the third defense pair. He was on the ice for 3 goals. He was turning pucks over left and right. You just didn't know what he was. He went 14 straight games without a point, not a goal, a point at that point. And so what happened was, I think that because he has put so much pressure on himself to score goals, that he definitely started to press, and then it started to really hurt his defensive game. And so, he's a high-risk, high-reward defenseman, which means that you are going to have to deal with the odd boo-boo sometimes. You're just going to have to deal with that. And so I think that it really, when you're not scoring and you're Matt Dumba, and then you're not playing great defense and you're Matt Dumba, that's when the criticism starts to come. Where sometimes you could forget, it's kind of like Fiala. You have to handle the high-risk plays sometimes to understand, to appreciate that what he's trying to do is create offense. And he could be a special player at times. He showed it last night, but you'd like to see that more. And so when he's in a slump like he's just been, where he had 1 goal in 17 games and wasn't getting a lot of points, and then he started turning pucks over and playing poor defensively again, that's when that regression starts to lead to criticism, where last night he shows you again what he's capable of. And so with high-risk, high-reward players, that's just going to happen.
Let's get to Fiala. We do want to thank Twill in the Edina Galleria. You heard me talk about it before. I got this shirt at Twill. It's probably the most comfortable shirt I own. I bought most of my wardrobe at this point from Twill. Everything from really high-end stuff to stuff you wear on a golf course. TwillMN.com. Isn't it comfortable?
Yeah. I just had this flashback. I remember when Kent Youngblood, once we were in an elevator, and he started feeling my jacket.
I do. I thought I had blocked that out of my memory, but now you brought me back. And
yeah. I just had that.
We just had an all-staff meeting of the Star Tribune sports staff.
What's that?
We just had an I spent the afternoon in an all-staff meeting.
Really?
Star Tribune sports staff.
Why?
Yeah. Mainly just talk about you.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you to Twill, TwillMN.com.
Jim usually doesn't like to shop for clothes. I don't like it when he shops for clothes either, because he used to buy stuff I'd want to throw out. That's why I'm so glad he's found Twill in the Edina Galleria. He likes shopping there because of the comfortable environment and the friendly staff. He finds clothes that actually fit him properly and are high-quality brands that will look great for years, whether he's golfing or working. Our favorites so far are Peter Millar, Johnny O, and Barber. We spend our money at Twill because we love the clothes and we love the no-pressure shopping. Drop by Twill in the Edina Galleria for the best shopping experience and best clothes you'll find in the Twin Cities.
I got sources there. I'll find out what the heck the meeting was about.
We can't tell you.
I will find out. I promise.
So where do you stand on Fiala now as overall as a player / prospect?
Compared to the beginning of this season when I was doing podcasts?
Yes.
Look, last night, I just cannot believe that somebody that broke his femur can skate like him.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy's speed, when he is straight away, is out of control. I mean, he is like a blur. It's just crazy. Like, I thought that when he scored the second goal, that was impressive. But how about his bursts in overtime? It's nuts. I just don't. I'd love to meet the doctor that operated on him and just say, what the heck did you do? What did you put in his leg? I mean, I know that he didn't have this. Like all fractures are different, right? Everybody was talking about how Jason Zucker must be made out of it must be magic. Just that he came back in a month from his broken tibia when guys like Shalmerson missed in almost half the season. Every break's different. And I know that Curtis Foster's break was a lot different than Fiala's, but man, it's still your femur, right? So it's crazy. So look, he looks great. He's still going to be, he's one of those players. You've got to surround him with players that are going to play quality defense, and that's why I think Cunnin works yesterday. And somebody that could keep up with him. Victor Rask, the problem with him and Zucker are so fast that I think Rask was just having trouble keeping up at times. Where Cunnin at least is going to play defense. He set great screens yesterday. He works his butt off, things like that. So when you have Rask and Fiala on the ice together, that could be a problem. And then when Zucker's the safe guy on your line defensively, it's a problem. That line was never destined to do well. And so last night it looked great. And the one thing I will say is, as critical as I was with the Granlund trade at the time, it was more just that they didn't get another asset with it. I've never doubted that Paul Fenton knows the sport. I mean, Paul Fenton knew Kevin Fiala more than any of us knew Kevin Fiala. So obviously he saw something that was there, and we are all seeing it now. And good for Fiala. And the other thing about Fiala, I said it the first day I met him last year in Winnipeg. He's a stand-up guy. Like, he needs at times to be disciplined and things like that. But I love dealing with the guy. He's willing to say it like it is. He's got this kind of, you saw last night, he's got this kind of, I don't want to curse. He's got this grin about him that's like this, this like cockiness grin. I like the guy. And so I hope that he continues to play well because it's going to be interesting. And I will say that, the one thing I've talked a lot about, actually, this is a good little subject to bring up here because I'm working on a story right now, is I've started to say where do the pieces fit going into next season with Kaprizov here because he's listed as a right wing, has played a lot of right wing overseas and things like that. But I did talk to his agent, and he assures me that Kaprizov can he is a left shot, but a lot of these Russian guys love to play their off wing, right? Pavel Bure, off wing forward. Played the left shot, playing the right wing. Ilya Kovalchuk, off wing, forward, right shot, playing the left wing. Same with Ovechkin. So Kaprizov, a lot of these Russians like to come into the offensive zone on the forehand. But Dan Milstein assures me that Kaprizov can play the left side. So that was my biggest wonder is you have Zuccarello, you have Fiala. Fiala's playing great. It would be an absolute travesty to move him to the left side when he's at this side. You have Luke Cunnin, you have Ryan Hartman. So now you look at the left side and you got Zucker, Parise, Greenway, and whoever that left shot is, whether it's Donato or whoever. So, my thought was, all right, so if you traded Zucker, what does that even accomplish if Kaprizov's got to play the right side? But Milstein made it clear to me that he could play the left side. So that's going to be the interesting thing here is who goes to create room for Kaprizov. And it probably going to be one of those left wings because I don't think you're moving Fiala, and I know you can't move Zuccarello. He's probably immovable, and I wouldn't move Cunnin. And Hartman, regardless if he was moved or not, it doesn't create a room for Kaprizov. So who's that left? I mean, Parise's staying, so it's Zucker or Greenway. And even if it was Donato, that doesn't create a room. So by process of elimination,
Zucker.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to trade Greenway at this stage of his development.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
Value.
I mean, I would consider it if it was for the right asset.
Right, but that's the thing. He's not going to bring the right asset now, is he?
Exactly. You're not trading from a strength. That's for sure.
Right.
He's not. He hasn't maximized his asset value yet.
I also want to note that Michael Russo brought up Kaprizov, not a Twitter person, not somebody walking down the street. Michael Russo brought up Kaprizov.
Hey, I'm all excited now. He's like, they're not. He's not even hiding that he's coming here today. I mean, I'll be honest. We talked to Kovalchuk today. Great stuff on Kaprizov. So I'm doing the hunting and the gathering now. I'm getting ready. What's that? No. I'm just saying. There's a lot of respect there between those two players, so I've reached out to, I'm just starting to prep. because obviously when he signs here, I want to have a really good future. But frankly, we're getting such good stuff now that I just might write a story in the next little bit. But even the KHL last year, I love that whoever runs the KHL English Twitter account is like a troll. I mean, the amount of time. Look at like 50% of their Kaprizov tweets, they use the word wild. It's pretty funny. And they did it again yesterday. The other thing, the other night when the Wild lost, sometimes I also wonder if he's sending like subliminal messages, like I'm coming. Because the other night, look at the timestamp. The Wild lost to Boston at 6-1, and 8 minutes later, there was just a picture of Kaprizov smiling on his Instagram account. It's just like, it's like, I'm coming. Perk up, be happy.
Beautiful.
I will say, I've talked to a lot of people that know him. I've talked to one of his really good friends that's North American. And, God, there's nobody that doesn't like him. I mean, they love this kid. And one of the people I talked to joked that he goes, maybe we all love him because we don't we can't understand anything he's saying. There's his English when this person played with him wasn't very good. So we'll see. But I think he's going to be a player.
Reminds me, we have a mutual friend who used to imitate Teemu Selanne when he was in Anaheim, and he always say he would start talking, and then he would try to say, on the other hand, but of course, he's Teemu, so he'd always, same hand.
Yeah.
And
I love Timo is one of my favorite players ever to deal with. I remember Anaheim opened the season here one year, if I remember correctly. It was one of Boudreau's years when he was coaching them. And it was the year that Matthew Perreault scored an overtime winner against Backstrom with 5 seconds left in overtime. But what was really funny is that I was interviewing Granlund in morning skate, and I just happened to ask him who his biggest heroes were over in Finland, and he brought up Selanne, and then right away I'm like, well, Selanne's 100 feet away. I'm just going to go run and talk to Selanne about him. And Selanne was so good talking about Granlund and how much he respected watching him and the national teams. And so, but Selanne, it's funny because all the Finns have almost the exact same accent. Selanne was different than all of them. It was like...
It was a little goofy.
Yeah, exactly.
I got to cover him in some Olympics, too, and he was just fantastic.
Ben's here. He's gotten tired of listening to us to talk.
All right. I do have to say, before Ben walks up, that in honor of Mary O'Neill being here, we have to ask, when's Granlund coming back to center one of these great Wild wingers?
I don't know. I asked somebody the other day whether he could play center in this league, and he said yes. So, I mean, the only way, but I mean, it's whether or not Granlund thinks he can. Because the only way, to me, you could sign him as a free agent is if you think you could put him back at center. So
let's thank quickly Fixology Repair, fixologyrepair.com. As you know, locations, the big mothership at the Mall of America, 3rd floor by Nordstrom's, downtown in the Minneapolis Skyway. I walked by it today, and downtown now in the St. Paul Skyway, close to the Wild offices.
Hi, this is John with Fixology Repair. For the better part of a decade, we've been privileged to serve you for all of your jewelry, watch, and smartphone repair needs at the Mall of America. Since Minnesotans largely hate going to the mall, we expanded 2 years ago to reach you in the Minneapolis Skyway. And now this year, we're pleased to announce we have a new location at Wells Fargo Place in the St. Paul Skyway. All 3 shops are equipped to help with your watch and cell phone repair needs on site, while all jewelry, computer, and game consoles will be completed at the Mall of America store. Please bring us your repair challenges, and don't forget to mention the Talk North podcast for a 10% discount on all of our services.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Mike, can you also ask Milstein if Kaprizov can play center?
Yeah. Don't want to change his position too much here.
Anyway, no.
I will say the person that I asked about Granlund said that too. The problem with that is that this person doesn't think that Granlund would be nearly as productive offensively at center. So we'll see. Who knows if Granlund's even going to be free right now the way he's playing. He's now suddenly playing like Mikhail Granlund again. Scored the overtime winner yesterday. That was my favorite thing when Kaprizov. I will say this, Granlund's still a very good player. My favorite thing is anytime Fiala does anything good, Wild fans, especially those who hate the fact that I ripped on Fenton, write me, could Granlund have done that? I'm like, well, he just scored an overtime winner 4 seconds ago, so probably. Let's calm down. The revisionist history that Granlund Granlund still scored a lot more points so far in a season than Fiala has in this uniform. So still a pretty decent player. And he was being misused by Peter Laviolette, and now he's not, and he's playing with confidence again, and he's one of their best players, to the point that David Poyle now sees what the heck he acquired, and maybe they don't even get rid of him. So, what was your question?
I kind of forgot.
I'm so on edge with Twitter and commenters right now.
Well, some of the...
Who?
Thoughts?
Oh, thoughts, yeah. Was that, I can't even remember, was that on this podcast?
Yes.
That went on Thoughts
Yes.
Rant? Okay.
Well, some of the replies some of the comments I see that you replied to, I might want to make my head explode too. So, anyway,
Yeah.
So one of the team's kind of unfortunate Achilles' heels this year has been goaltending, and obviously prayers every day for Dubnyk and his family and what he's going through. So, I guess my question about the position is just looking ahead towards next year. What do you think? Guerin essentially would want to do with that position. Because you're still going to have both goalies under contract.
Yeah.
Can you afford to go into next year with Kaprizov and have it be status quo, or do you think he'll look at it and, assuming Dubnyk's unmovable, try to still augment that position?
Did you say Kaprizov?
No, I meant. Yeah, no, Dubnyk. No,
Okay,
Dubnyk.
I thought you said, can you afford to go?
No,
into
the
next
Dubnyk,
season?
I would assume will
Kaprizov.
still be here.
Yeah,
He's
I mean,
unmovable.
like I was going to say that, if you said Kaprizov or misspoke, I mean, regardless of Kaprizov coming or not, he's got nothing to do with the goaltending. I mean, if it was me, I don't disagree with you. I mean, to me, one thing I would do if this team does fall out where it's obvious at the trade deadline that they are not going to make the playoffs is I call up Kakinen after the trade deadline. And I play him because, to me, you can't go into next season without improved goaltending. So you've got to know, if you're Bill Guerin, what you have in Kakinen. And so I play the heck out of him and then see what you have. And then if all of a sudden it looks like you're convinced that Kakinen's not the future, then you got to go out this summer when there are goalies going to be available and go get one. And if you next year have to have two goalies that are both making $4 million, you just can't go into next season without improved goaltending. And that's just the fact. And again, Dubnyk is probably staying here regardless, unless you're buying him out or something. But to me, it's like you've just got to figure out what you have. And so if they're out of it, I bring up Kakinen, and even if you got to carry three goalies on the roster after the season, because remember one thing is after the trade deadline, as long as you're cap compliant, you could have more than 23 players, so you could carry three goalies. Fairly easily. So I would consider it.
Interesting. Let's do a couple Twitter questions here really quickly. Again, if anyone wants to come up and ask a live question, we'd love to have you. Wicked Ginger, our friend Wicked Ginger, wanted Tony Hoagland to be here tonight because he's got a stranger pulled out and hit his car while it was parked in Uptown. I didn't know you could park in Uptown. It's actually a little confusing to me. There are no spots there. So Wicked Ginger wants Tony Hoagland. And by the way, Tony Hoagland, of course, longtime sponsor of this and other podcasts on the network. HOAGLUND, your State Farm agent in Champlin.
Every team knows that the two-point play can be a winning move. That's why State Farm agent Tony Hoagland and his team are here to help you go for two by combining your home and auto insurance. It's a great call that saves you time and money. So go for the win and score savings by combining your home and auto. It's just another way we're here to help life go right. Call State Farm agent Tony Hoagland at 763-421-4900 or online at champlininsurance.com.
From Ton Squad 42.
Hopefully Wicked Ginger's okay.
It sounds like he's okay. It sounds like
good.
he just ticked. From Ton Squad 42, can Stalock turn into a Tim Thomas type of goalie that can play every night? He's exciting to watch and plays the puck extremely well, but the size scares me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Stalock's the type of guy that could play, 2 or 3 games really well, and then eventually he's kind of, he has that one game. Where it's not so good. So I don't know if he's somebody that you could just play on an every single day game basis. But right now, I mean, he obviously has the big win yesterday against Chicago. Got to think he's playing in Vancouver, but Dubnyk's going to probably start in Dallas. I mean, you just can't go with the same goalie in a back-to-back that's home road Minnesota-Dallas. You just can't. I mean, the Wild are going to get down to Dallas around 3 a.m. on Friday. So Doobie will get a chance. And then if, say the Wild lose to Vancouver, but Doobie plays well in Dallas, I mean, the way it's going right now is that Boudreau is going to go with whichever goalie is playing well. So then they'll come home against Colorado, and Dubnyk, who has great numbers against Colorado, will probably play that game. So, we'll see. But right now, if Stalock keeps on winning, he's going to be the guy. Boudreau's in this to win it. And I can't impress that upon enough. I know that might conflict with some of the wishes of the fans, but Boudreau's here to win.
We do have attentive listeners. I have a bunch of tweets asking me to ask you for your thoughts.
Probably shouldn't have said that.
That was a Russo.
I will say though,
level
like now when people ask me my thoughts on Twitter, I know it's sarcastic. So it actually I feel like has cut down on the thoughts questions. So.
And by the way, our friend Tony Hoagland said he would have been here tonight, but his little guy has hockey, so he's right in the spirit of the show, even though he can't be here. Let's see. Tunsweat also asked, when do we get Mayhew in the lineup?
Well, I mean, technically, like I kind of just said with the trade deadline, you theoretically could bring him up right after. But look, this team has got no injuries right now, and Mayhew, I mean, Donato could barely play in the lineup consistently. So there's just no spot for Mayhew, and that's just a reality. I mean, like, Bruce, I'm sorry, like it's so much easier to coach on your couch than at home. And my problem with every time they bring up Mayhew is they put him on the fourth line. And I'd love to see him in a top six role, but who's he going to play over? He's not playing over Zuccarello. He's not playing over Parise. He's not playing over Zucker. He's not playing over Fiala. He shouldn't play over Foligno or Cunnin. So there's your top 9 wingers. I mean, there's 6 spots there, and those are your guys. So the only ones you got are does he play over Hartman or Donato, and that's still fourth line minutes where he's playing fourth line role. So this is just what it is. I wish he would be here. I wish when he came here he was also more assertive. I mean, that's the one thing. I will say when Jerry comes up next, I would love him to take it upon himself to just say, I'm showing these guys what I want. Now, a lot of that is on Boudreau. Put him on the power play. I'd love to see him in that situation. Give him a chance to score and see if he's just forgive me for saying this if you're listening, but his face just popped up on the screen in front of me, so I'll just say it. Is he Eric Westrom? Or is he, there he is. There's Eric Westrom right there. Remember, my first years when he came here, I remember Sid Hartman used to be like, this is baloney that Eric Westrom wasn't coming up, and fans, this is pre-Twitter, would email me all the time, where's Eric Westrom? Where's Eric Westrom? Where's Eric Westrom? And so Mayhew's now become that Eric Westrom type. Is Eric Westrom wound up being basically a career minor leaguer? Is Mayhew that guy, or is he somebody that can actually come up and be in an NHL role? I think he could come up and play in this league. I hope he gets his chance. Luckily, he's under contract next year, too. But, look, the reality is this team doesn't have a lot of scoring, and he has 31 goals down in the minors and is just absolutely on fire. So I'd love to see him get a shot.
I think you just came up with the best possible name for this podcast.
What?
Forgive me for saying this.
Yeah. Well, I feel bad because I like Eric Westrom. I ran into him at the Prior Lake Music Festival.
What do you say about people you don't like?
And, OAR. No, it's what I'm saying. I'm using the analogy that Eric Westrom has become that Mayhew has become to fans what Eric Westrom was. In other words, there's always that guy.
Yep.
Here's a better way of saying it. There's always that guy in the minors that fans just want and want and want, and they never seem to call him. And then it kind of affects the guy's career forever, where Eric just became a career minor leaguer. Now, who knows if Eric was good enough to play in this level or not. He just, unfortunately, never got the real chance here in Minnesota. And I think eventually he was traded to Arizona, if I remember correctly. I could be totally wrong, but it was back in 2005. That was like my early years. I used to be able to remember everything, and now it's just like...
Yeah, get used to it, buddy.
It's just a bunch of caffeine remnants up in my head.
It's more than some of us have. By the way, I want to clear something up. You brought it up, and I just am having trouble envisioning this. Are you telling me that Sid Hartman was
he used to write about Eric Westrom?
Was rooting about a Minnesota native not getting a break?
Yeah, he used to write about Eric Westrom all the time.
I can't believe that.
Yeah. Actually, Sid used to do about Eric Westrom what I do now about Jerry Mayhew. I just tweet about Jerry just to watch the reaction. But Sid did that only in print.
Hi, Vicky.
Hey. Philip wants Jerry Mayhew up here, too.
Yeah.
Like
Well, hey, look, I mean, the guy, he is having a heck of a year down there.
But if
I
we
mean, the guy
take,
might be the MVP of the AHL, right? So,
well, if we take another player from the Baby Wild, Allison will be very upset.
yeah.
Yeah. With all the stuff that's going on, all the trades, and the likelihood of us making the playoffs, which means we can only lose 8 times before the end of the season. That's not very much.
No.
But do you think it might provide the team with a spark if they got rid of Evison, who is Fenton's guy, and bring John Anderson back?
No, I mean, I am not going to be a proponent of getting rid of an assistant coach and thinking that's going to, do everything,
It'd make Bruce happy.
No, I wouldn't say that at all. I definitely wouldn't. So I just think that no matter who the personnel is on the ice, their power play has always been this. It has nothing to do. I mean, Andrew Burnett's a pretty good power play player. Dean Evison was a great hockey player. Daryl Sador ran the power play for a while. It's always been the same. It's just what it is. I mean, it's not a coaching issue.
Yeah, I don't think.
And definitely, and look, I mean, I like John Anderson and all that stuff, but he hasn't coached in the league in the last couple of years. That's not going to provide the spark that's going to turn this team into a great team.
Yeah, I don't think it had anything. I don't think Philip meant that it had anything to do with what his responsibilities are. Just from a personnel standpoint, I still think Bruce would be happy to have his best friend back. But
well, yeah, I see what you mean. I thought you meant more that Evison's leaving. Yeah, no, I look, absolutely. I mean, Bruce was not happy about that whole situation. But, it is what it is at this point. So I don't think, especially now, that you just all of a sudden bring John back. So
now, I know that I've heard that, like what they were going to do this week would affect what kind of trades were going to be done, or it's going to take the next 2 weeks to see what the team looks like. Mm-hmm. When do you feel like something's going to happen?
I think closer to the trade deadline. And again, I wrote this the other day. Unless there's obvious great trades out there, I don't think there should be any. I don't think that Bill Guerin should feel any pressure from the outside, from writers, from media, to make trades just to make trades. Especially if it's one of the two defensemen. Like, to me, if you're going to trade Brodin or Dumba, you better get a center. You just have to. That's where this team lacks, and goaltending. So that's where this team lacks. So there's no, even though it's the trade deadline, there's no deadline on Billy that you have to do it now. So to me, you have the hammer. If you don't like what's being offered to you, especially from the only handful of teams that are going to be willing to deal with you at this time of the year, because those teams are playoff teams and are probably not wanting to delete off their roster, then wait till the draft to make those type of trades, where you have 30 teams to deal with that have better understandings of their cap situations. So I think that if this is a silent deadline where he doesn't, quote, sell now, I don't think fans should go crazy on Bill Guerin. It's just he obviously didn't see what he liked out there. I mean, these are good assets that he's trading, and I think that last year the one thing that we complained about is that they got rid of players that maybe they didn't get the full maximized value back. So if all of a sudden you're going to trade guys like Dumba or Brodin or Zucker or Foligno and not get significant return back, I don't think that you should do it. So, but I think closer to the deadline is when you make those decisions, unless there's no-brainers now. I mean, I will say there are defensemen around this league that are dropping like flies. I mean, look at Dougie Hamilton now. Mark Giordano's out. I mean, there are teams that are going to need defensemen. But a lot of those teams also like Carolina is a good example. Like, they were very interested in Brodin, then they changed course and they're now looking for a right shot guy. They called on Dumba. I know that to be true. But I don't think that they really have an appetite to add Dumba, because eventually Hamilton's coming back. And then all of a sudden you got Hamilton, you got Pesce, you got Slavin. Dumba's got 4 or 5 years left on his contract at $6 million. You can't have that much on your back end. So, that's the one thing that also that is very tough for these teams, is even if you wanted Dumba, but if you're a team like that, can you take on that type of salary and term? So,
well, I do have complete trust with Billy.
Yeah.
As opposed to the other.
We'll see. I mean, it's going to be interesting to watch how he proceeds here, because we haven't yet seen him, kind of put his stamp on this team. So we'll all learn what type of manager he's going to be. All first-time managers also make mistakes. I mean, that could potentially happen. You look at Chuck Fletcher's first year here. Obviously the Nicoletti trade was one that he has mentioned 1,000 times was a mistake. Even at the time, I didn't love the Kobasu trade, but what he gave up turned out to be wound up being really nothing. So we'll see what Guerin does.
Well, as you well know, what happens between now and the end of the season, I'm more concerned about what happens to Bruce than anything else. And yes, I know he has a shelf life, but
the other interesting thing that's going to happen here in the next little bit is what happens with Koivu. He's got a no move. Does anybody want him? I've got to think playoff teams would be interested in him coming in as a third-line center, and would he be willing to waive? But, man, if they're scouting him right now, can't be a lot of teams interested in him. I mean, that was a rough last night. Last night, it's as bad as I've ever seen him.
Yep.
Doesn't seem to move. Can't win a freaking draw. Mm-hmm. I mean, God, that second goal, it's a seeing eye shot. But, man, the other thing that happened yesterday that's interesting is, and it bothered me from the moment he did it with about 10 minutes left, is, Donato had a rough start last night, but then started to be playing great. But he just doesn't, Bruce just doesn't trust Donato in his own zone. So what he does is he starts overplaying Cunnin, and he has Cunnin going out there instead of Donato the last 8-9 minutes of the game. And then it was almost appropriate that Cunnin, Koivu, and Hartman are on the ice for the tying goal last night, and Donato's just sitting on the bench. It's what sometimes I just think that coaches and Bruce sometimes overthink stuff, and it's I can't have Donato in a 1-goal game playing in his own zone, and then what happens is he takes Donato off the line, he puts Cunn in there, and then that line still screws up for the goal. It's just to me, if you roll 4 lines, just roll 4 lines. Maybe Donato gets a breakaway and like he did yesterday and puts it in only. Where last night he didn't. He gets his chances. I don't know. I think I have too much of a soft spot probably for Donato. But, I see the warts, trust me. But I also see a guy that just works his absolute butt off, and he's a great kid. And I just drives me crazy sometimes that he seems to always be getting this short shrift. So, anyway.
He does. Do you think Mikko being moved down in line has affected him? Part of me says it could.
Yeah, I could tell you he's definitely not happy about it.
Yeah.
Just scary when you bring it up to him. So.
Angry Mikko.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks, guys.
Hey, good stuff, Vicki. I appreciate it. Thank you. Good to see you as always. Before Father takes the mic, do want to remind you, we'll be back at Tin Shed next Wednesday. It's February 12th at 7 p.m. We do the show for about an hour. Get here early, eat, drink, be merry. We appreciate you supporting Tin Shed as well as the podcast. Reminder, they do hold birthday parties, sports team parties, company holiday parties here. They have, you can, bring your fan group here to watch certain games. They have so many TVs, they can set you up there. They have a bunch of different compartments in the bar where you can get your group and have kind of a private little gathering. They have a lot of new menu items, jumbo pretzel, new burgers. They now offer take and bake pizza fundraising, which is great for sports teams, other organizations. Do a 50-50 revenue split. You can order online, tinshedmn.com/online ordering. Mondays, buy one, get one free pizza, any size, any topping. Kids eat free Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But go to tinshedmn.com and you'll find out anything you need, including the location, which is very convenient in Savage, Minnesota. Yes, sir.
Father?
So in what you were saying about Billy Guerin needing to see some of what these younger guys are, when you talk about bringing up like Kapanen and bringing up others, and Bruce has shown, at least this year, that he's not giving top-line minutes to a lot of these younger guys. And as far as I can see on their contracts, the only person really coming off the books next year will be Koivu, at least as the contracts are. So it seems like Billy Guerin almost has to move some of these, the top 6 forwards to make the space even for some of these younger guys to get any chance, because if it continues on to next year and the contracts stay as they are, that it really seems like that Billy is in a position where he has to move someone before the trade deadline just to see what some of these guys can do when they get top line minutes and play with some of the higher.
Well, that was
talent.
my biggest thing with like the Donato trade is that in a lot of ways, And then you go out and you add Zuccarello and Hartman. It just felt like, again, and I've said this a gazillion times, like it just felt like Paul Fenton was always shooting at the hip with everything he did and didn't have like plans. And, Donato is a perfect example of this. Like, where did they think he was going to fit this year? When they acquired him, especially after getting Zuccarello and Hartman, it just never made sense. I mean, you just traded Nino because he had to be on the fourth line. So when you did the math, you knew that Greenway or Donato was going to wind up having to be a fourth line guy. It just doesn't make sense. So you're right. I mean, if your goal is to see if some of these guys could play top minutes, you got to get rid of guys. But the problem is that the guys you can get rid of, you can't. They're just probably immovable, or you don't want to. Because I've brought this up about Suter and Parise a gazillion times, is that it's much more dangerous to trade them to another team from a cap recapture standpoint than to just keep into the length of your deal. But that's always been the problem, and it's why also I would never give out long-term deals again to anybody in this league, is because eventually by the end of those contracts, we're seeing it now with Dubnyk, is those guys are going to block the path of other guys. There's just, that when you give a 6-year deal to a goalie, that eventually at the end he's going to be breaking down. You know that if you're going to give a 13-year deal to Parise and Suter, that by the end you're probably going to want somebody else in those situations. We've seen that also with centers with guys like Stahl and Koivu. So you're right. I mean, the biggest thing is who he moves to make room to get these guys playing. So.
Well, with that in mind, and with all respect to Vicky too, does that mean that Bruce, if he's not going to make the room for those guys to move up and move some of these veterans down, spells some of his time?
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, like I don't know who you're referring to, but to me, the only one in the top 6 role right now that might need to be pushed down would be a guy like Parise. I mean, you don't want Zuccarello playing on third or fourth line, nor should he. So do you move Parise down to play a Donato up or something like that? I don't know if that's right anyway. I mean, still Zach's your leading goal scorer on the team. But to contradict one thing you're saying, I mean, he finally did it with Koivu. He didn't give a crap that Koivu was pissed off. He just moved him to the fourth line. I mean, frankly, you might get more from Victor Rask than Koivu at this point. I don't know if he's hurt or just has totally gotten old here quick, but this is as bad as I've ever seen him play.
Thank you.
Yeah, so
thanks,
anyway.
Father. Appreciate it. Let's wrap up by buzzing through a few good Twitter questions from Ryan Butel. We might see little clips from inside the locker room, but what is Russo's impression of the team psyche and dynamic since the Fenton firing? Hey, do you see a difference?
Well, I mean, I don't want to say that it's because of the Fenton firing, but they definitely seem to be much, much better. And I think a lot of it, to take a little, to contradict myself a little bit, but to also say I think it more has to do with the job that guys like Guerin and Leopold did before the season to get these guys back on track and impress upon them how important it was to be a team. But you see how much they like each other. Did everybody see the video of yesterday's celebration in the locker room with Dumba? I mean, that was really freaking cool. Like, I love that they're and this is Bill. I don't know if you heard my podcast with Matt Maka. Billy Guerin is the reason why they do these videos now. While PR and the media and the multimedia department Fenton wouldn't allow them to do this, and Billy Guerin's like, absolutely, and opened the doors to the cameramen in the locker room. And last night, watch that video. That is really neat. So Dumba comes in after the overtime winner, and he goes to his stall, and everybody's just sitting there locker room, not acknowledging him. And he just goes over to his stall and kind of looks around. Nobody's like wooing or anything. And then he puts his helmet up, and then just everybody raced to him and just, bear hugged him in the locker room. I'm not talking on the ice. And then, here's a great example. Matt Zuccarello has the red helmet from the last game that they won where he was the hero of the game, and he goes over and he gives it to, he does the whole Home Alone Kevin thing, gives it to Kevin. And just look at the reaction of everybody in the locker room when Kevin got him. Even just look at Zach Parise's face, how excited Zach was that Kevin got the helmet of the game thing. That's a sign of a room that's pretty tight. So, Fenton or no Fenton, the reality is that they're a much, much tighter team. And trust me, the issues that were in the locker room that were there predated Fenton. So I would not, and this is coming from somebody that's been very critical on Fenton, I wouldn't say this has anything to do with him being here or not here.
from Kyle Bonstrom, which players might the Wild be targeting? Are they looking at it that way? Are they saying there's this one player we want to get, or are they just looking to make a good deal?
Yeah, I mean, I can't say that I know that to be. I know exactly what's going on from that perspective, because I think a lot of the trades that Guerin's considering are futures. So, and a lot of times that's kind of throw a dart at the dartboard from my perspective, is because I don't know the prospect pools of every team in the league, and the only thing I know are the amount of draft picks that guys have and things like that. So, for a team that's not buying, it's just harder to tell you what they're exactly focusing on. I've got to think that he's got he's been meeting a lot with his staff this week, a lot of his front office people, things like that. I've got to think that he's got a notebook of trade potential deals by several teams in this league. I just talked to a management person for another team as I was coming here that I know is interested in Zucker, and I get the impression that Zucker has listed them on his no trade list, which is pretty frustrating for this team. But the one thing talking to him that he told me is that there's a lot of teams looking for a Jason Zucker type right now, which you don't usually get that at this time of the year. Guys with term that are wingers, not centers. Now, usually at the trade deadline, everybody's looking for the same thing, that puck-moving defenseman, one rugged defenseman, or a center. Very, very few teams are looking for that winger type, you know what I mean? So,
from Zach Spicer, Kovanov, is it possible he will spurn the Wild organization go to the KHL?
Well, I mean, I talked to Torchetti on my podcast a couple of weeks ago, and Torchetti brought up the fact that when that Kovanov had, because coincidentally CSKA Moscow is the team that owns his rights, that he had kind of used that as a threat. And Torchetti, I forget the quote he said, but it was funny. He was like, don't even try it, or something like that. But I will say something. I think I said this on one of the podcasts. So I went to the Lake Elmo Inn with Torch, and as we were leaving, the one thing he told me is that when Moncton's season's done, if he was Billy Guerin, if they're out of a playoff spot, that he would bring Kovanov here to Minnesota and not put him in Iowa, and give him that carrot to try to make this team out of camp. And the one thing that he was kind of insinuating was that Kovanov wouldn't want to, or Hovanov actually wouldn't want to play in Iowa next season. But look, you can't dictate what you're doing personnel-wise with. I mean, they have no room wingers right now. So I mean, or they just the reality is that if a teenager is telling you that I'm not playing in Iowa, or I'm going back to the KHL, I'd say sayonara. You don't have the attitude we want anyway. That's just the reality. I don't sit there and allow that to happen. I mean, this guy should probably be in the AHL, and if he doesn't want to be there, then go. I mean, that's just the reality of it.
Is sayonara Russian?
I think it's Japanese.
Okay, just checking.
Zach does mean goodbye, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or something. Zach Brown sending a couple of questions about sourcing and dealing with off-the-record information. Let's save that for a future podcast. Zach, if you don't mind, send those questions in again. That might be perfect for one of our Twitter heavy podcasts. I
just love that a musician as talented as Zach Brown always tweets us. I just think that's amazing.
You're a big deal.
Yeah.
You're a very big deal. I'm surprised we don't get trampled by turtles tweets at us every week.
Yeah.
Let's wrap up with a pretty good question from John Sandelman. Once again, thank you to tinshed.mn.com. Thanks to all of our sponsors, all of our listeners. Check out talknorth.com to see the new website. Follow us on Twitter at TalkNorthPod to see all the new shows and to get show links for other sports, as well as, of course, the Russo Show. From Ben Hurdle, what is the likelihood of John Santelman. Do you think Billy has already decided what he's doing at the deadline, or does what the team does the next 2 weeks actually make a difference?
I mean, he says that it does make a difference, but I think that he just knows that eventually he's going to have to make some changes to this roster, and it's just a matter of whether he does it in advance of the deadline or waits to the summertime to begin eating into it. Again, there's no reason why he has to do it now. That's what I just want fans to understand. If he doesn't do it, please don't freak out. He's not losing if he had a bunch of unrestricted guys right now, then he'd have to sell. Because then you're losing assets for nothing. But right now, all these guys are under term, under your control. So unless you get what you want, you don't have to do it, whether or not the team is performing or not. The key is to make the right trades right now, if you have to make the right trades. So I think he knows that. I hope.
That was weird. It was a short answer. He caught me off guard. He actually gave me a short answer. I don't know what to do there. Brandon's confused too. Thanks to everybody. We appreciate it.
Brandon, this could be the first time I don't ask you to cut something from this podcast.
You'll think of something on the drive home.
I can't remember what it was last
That's
week.
what you do on the drive home.
I called him in a panic. I'm like, get this out of there. So.
And I think it was me the week before. So.
It was last week. It was something you said. I'm like, we got to protect Jim.
We keep Brandon very busy. It's employment insurance for Brandon, having idiots like us do a podcast.
It's amazing. We've done 200-something shows, and we have yet to be fired from our real jobs. And you've done about 1,000 shows.
Do you try to jinx everybody? You try to jinx Parise at the beginning of the show. Now you're trying to jinx me at the end of the show.
Could you imagine doing the amount of podcasts that you do? I mean, I do 12 a month now, and I hate every one of them.
We can tell.
No, I'm just kidding.
And you know what? I do 7 a week, and this is the only one I hate.
It's just. But before this, like it's a commitment, and it's just amazing to me that you're able to do it, and you've done it for a long time. So, well done.
I knew he had trapped himself in a place where he might have to give me a compliment.
I love every one of the podcasts
and
I'm doing.
And he almost threw up all over his microphone trying to do it.
I love all the podcasts I'm doing. They're fun. They're it's not a time commitment. It's just a love.
Hey, Brandon, will you go back? Will you go back and just cut out all the insincere comments from Michael? We'll have a 12-minute podcast. It'll be great.
Yeah, Brandon, the last 5 minutes, if you could cut out, that'd be nice. Yeah. So, well, thanks for coming, Jim.
All right, I'm going to end the awkwardness right now. Please give Michael and Brandon a hand. Thank you all for being here. And we'll see you next Wednesday, 7 o'clock at Tin Shed.
Pretty little city built on a hillside. Music in the bars and fire in the sky. We went to the beach and it was covered in ice. And I used to call it home. So much coming out, there's nothing going in.